They say the forest remembers. Every sound, every spark, every scream. I used to think that was just a poetic line from some park brochure. That was before Redwood. My name's Eli Mercer, 38, ex-firefighter. After the divorce and after losing my son, I wanted silence. I wanted somewhere the noise couldn't reach me. When the state offered a night ranger position at Redwood Station, I took it without thinking. A forgotten outpost in Northern California, surrounded by towering redwoods and a history no one wanted to talk about. It sounded like peace. The drive up was long, hours of winding mountain roads, mist crawling across the asphalt like smoke from an old fire. By the time I reached Silver Pines, the last town before the park, my gaslight was on. The station attendant was a man in his 60s, face drawn tight like bark. I mentioned Redwood just to make small talk. He froze mid-pump, eyes unfocused. "If you hear the forest call your name," he said, voice low, "keep walking." He didn't charge me for the gas, just walked back inside without another word. The road to the outpost was worse, unpaved, twisting through the kind of darkness that eats your headlights. When I finally saw the tower, it looked more like a skeleton than a building. Wood eaten by rot, the antenna bent from storms. The air smelled of wet pine and something faintly burnt, like resin cooked too long. Supervisor Warren was waiting by the door, late 50s, face pale under the porch light, hand shaking as he handed me a plastic-wrapped notebook. The cover was water-stained, edges singed. The title etched into the leather, The Redwood Protocols. He didn't bother with introductions. Just said, "Don't break the rules, Mercer." Not even once. They're not suggestions. Then he walked past me, into the fog, without looking back. Inside, the station was small. A desk with a dead radio, maps pinned to the wall, a cot that smelled like mildew. I unpacked, brewed coffee, and tried to laugh off the warning. Maybe it was an initiation prank. Every station had their ghost stories. But sometime around 2 a.m., the forest went still. Not quiet, still. No wind, no insects, no rustle of leaves. Then, from somewhere below the tower, a whisper. "Eli." Soft. Familiar. I froze. It was my son's voice. When I looked out the window, there was nothing but endless trees, motionless, watching. That's when I started to understand what the man in town meant. Redwood doesn't forget, and sometimes it calls back the voices you've lost. The rain started not long after Warren left. Soft at first, like static whispering against the roof, then steady and rhythmic, matching the pulse in my ears. I sat at the desk with a cup of instant coffee and the notebook he'd given me, The Redwood Protocols. The thing smelled like smoke and sap. Its edges were warped, its pages brittle with age and moisture. When I opened it, the first few sheets crumbled to the touch. But deeper inside, in thick, uneven handwriting, I found the rules. 6 of them. 1. If you hear someone calling your name after midnight, don't answer. It's not them. 2. If you see lights between the trees, turn off your flashlight and stay still. 3. Do not talk to the girl by the stream. She'll ask you for her coat. Don't give it to her. 4. If your radio plays static followed by humming, do not reply. Wait until it stops. 5. When patrolling, count your footsteps. If you reach 300 and the trail hasn't looped, turn back immediately. 6. Before you leave at dawn, say it's over aloud. If the forest doesn't echo you, don't leave. Stay inside until it does. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes. Classic, I muttered. Every station had some version of this. Don't whistle at night. Don't feed the animals. Don't look into the dark too long. Someone had probably made it up years ago to scare rookies. Still, there was something off about the way it was written. Not warnings, commands. The ink pressed deep into the page, as if the writer had carved them instead of writing. I flipped through more pages. The next ones were blank except for stains, circles that looked like watermarks at first, until I noticed the faint reddish hue around the edges. Not rust, not sap, blood maybe. I pushed the thought away. Superstition had never scared me. I'd faced real fire before. Forest stories didn't bite. Outside, the storm thickened. Wind howled through the tower's cracks. and for a second I thought I heard movement below, slow, dragging steps through wet dirt. I told myself it was the wind knocking against a loose panel. Anything but footsteps. Around 12:10, the radio crackled to life. A burst of static, then silence. I leaned closer, waiting for dispatch or Warren to check in. Nothing. Then, a faint hum. At first it was just a note, high, trembling. Then it turned into a melody. A lullaby. I felt my chest tighten. My son used to hum that tune when he couldn't sleep. I swallowed, staring at the radio as the static deepened, wrapping around the sound like it was breathing. Then came the voice, soft, childlike, almost too quiet to catch. "Can you bring me my coat, mister?" The words froze me. For a second, I forgot to breathe. I looked at the notebook, at rule number 3. Do not talk to the girl by the stream. She'll ask you for a coat. Don't give it to her. My hand hovered over the mic switch, every instinct screaming to respond. My son had died in a fire. I never found his jacket. Never got to say goodbye. The voice came again, closer now. Less through the radio, more around it, like it was inside the room. "Please, mister, it's cold." I slammed the radio off. The tower went dead silent. Even the rain paused, like the whole forest was holding its breath. Then, faintly from outside, just beyond the glass, I heard it again. A soft hum, the same melody. I didn't sleep that night. And when dawn came, before stepping out, I whispered, "It's over." The forest didn't echo, not even once. The next few nights felt almost normal. Almost. The forest had its rhythm. Crickets, distant owls, the slow pulse of the wind brushing through the redwoods. It was the kind of silence that never stayed still. It breathed. At first, the strange things could be explained. The lights flickered whenever the generator hiccuped. Old wiring, nothing more. The footsteps outside at midnight, probably raccoons, or a deer brushing against the gravel. The static on the radio, bad reception. I kept telling myself that, over and over. But patterns have a way of making liars out of logic. The static came every night, same time, 2:11 a.m. sharp. Always the same rhythm. Crackle, short burst of silence, then a faint hum behind it, like someone testing the air. The footsteps too, slow, deliberate, always circling once, never twice. And the fog. God, the fog started moving wrong. It didn't roll in from the valley like it should have. It climbed uphill, slow as syrup, swallowing the trail markers one by one. I watched it from the tower one night, how it seemed to pause at the tree lean, like it was thinking, deciding whether to come closer. It did. By the time the mist reached the base of the tower, the air felt thick, damp, charged. The same feeling right before lightning strikes. The woods went completely silent. Even the insects stopped. That was when I noticed it. The tower's shadow on the ground. There were two. I stared at them until my eyes burned. One stretched west, as it should, toward the setting sun. The other leaned north, thinner, fainter, yet still there, like a reflection cast by something unseen. When I looked up, the fog was gone, but the second shadow stayed. I told myself I was tired. Too much caffeine, too little sleep. But when I closed my eyes that night, I kept hearing the hum, soft, steady, just beneath the edge of hearing. 3 nights later, I saw her. It was around dusk, while I was walking the East Trail. The trees there are denser, thick trunks, roots like ribs jutting from the soil. I followed the sound of running water until I reached the stream that splits the forest in two. That's when I saw the girl. She stood knee-deep in the water, wearing a white dress stained with dirt. Her hair hung in wet strands over her face. She was small, maybe 10, maybe younger, still a stone. Her eyes weren't right. They weren't glowing, not exactly, just black. So black they caught the reflection of the sky behind me like a mirror. Her lips moved, forming shapes. Words, maybe, but the air between us swallowed every sound. I called out, "Hey, are you okay?" No response. Then, faintly, the radio on my belt crackled. A burst of static that made me flinch. Through the hum came a voice. "Unit 7, status check." I pressed the button. "This is Unit 7. I've got..." The voice interrupted, sharp, low. No, you're not. The sound was distorted, warped through interference. But the tone, the rhythm, it was my voice. Then nothing, just the crackle of dead air. When I looked up again, the girl was gone. The stream was calm, unbroken. But in the water, where she had stood, the ripples still spread outward, like something had just stepped deeper beneath the surface. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. The coat, the humming, the shadow. It all felt connected, but not in a way I could explain. I checked the notebook again, the rules. I read them until the words blurred, until the ink seemed to crawl on the page. Rule number 3 stared back at me like a warning I'd already ignored. Do not talk to the girl by the stream. Too late. Around 3 a.m., the generator stuttered, and the lights flickered out completely. The tower went black. I walked to the window, trying to see if the floodlights were still on below, and that's when I saw it. My reflection. For a second, I thought it was normal. Just my face, faintly lit by the moonlight. But then it moved. A twitch at the corner of the mouth. A smirk. It smiled. I hadn't. And worse, the smile came a second too late. I stumbled back, knocking over my chair. The reflection didn't follow. It just stood there, smiling through the glass. Outside, the wind rose, bending the treetops, and I could swear, beneath the howl, I heard it again. That soft, familiar humming. This time, coming from inside the room. The 6th night began with rain. Not the kind that drums gently on the roof. This one hissed, a cold, steady sheet that turned the dirt roads into veins of black mud. The forest looked alive under it, shifting with every gust of wind. I was halfway through a lukewarm cup of coffee when the first knock came. Soft, deliberate, 7 times. I froze. My eyes went straight to the notebook lying open on the desk, the list of rules. Rule number 3 stared back at me, underlined in shaky ink. Do not talk to the girl by the stream. She'll ask you for her coat. Don't give it to her. This wasn't the stream. This was my door. Still, something in the cadence of those knocks, hesitant, fragile, dug into me. Then came the whisper. Please, mister. It's cold. Can I have my coat back? The voice was small, trembling, soaked with fear. My stomach clenched. I told myself to ignore it, to wait it out, to listen to the rule. But there was something in the way she said please. The same tone my son used to have when the thunder scared him awake at night. Against every instinct, I moved toward the door. My boots left muddy prints across the wooden floor. I pressed my eye to the peephole. She was there, the girl from the stream, standing in the downpour, drenched to the bone. Her dress clung to her thin frame. Her hair hung flat across her face. Her arms wrapped around herself, as if she were trying to hold her body together. I hesitated. Who are you? I whispered through the door. Her head tilted up, and for a moment, through the blur of rain and fog, I saw her eyes, hollow, black, reflecting nothing. Please, she said again. It's so cold. Something broke in me. The guilt, the loneliness, the echo of my son's voice calling from a hospital bed I never made it to in time. I grabbed my spare jacket, a heavy ranger coat, and cracked the door open. The cold air rushed in, slicing through me. She didn't move, didn't even flinch, just stood there dripping. I stepped forward and draped the jacket over her shoulders. Her skin didn't feel like skin. It was rough, textured, like the bark of an old tree. The water sliding off her face wasn't rain. It was sap. Are you? I started, but the words fell apart. She lifted her head, and her face changed. The features blurred, smeared, rearranged like smoke caught in a gust. For a heartbeat, I saw my son's eyes staring back at me. Then my own. Then no eyes at all. A whisper, soft as a breath against my ear. Thank you. And then she split. Her body shattered into 1,000 drifting strands of gray mist, unraveling like ash in the rain. The jacket dropped to the ground, soaked and empty. I stumbled back, slamming the door shut, my pulse hammering in my ears. The radio crackled violently on the desk. Static, then a scream, high-pitched, raw, layered over itself a dozen times until it became something inhuman. The lights burst. The entire cabin shook, dust raining from the ceiling. I reached for the radio, but the moment I touched it, the static shifted. I heard voices, my voice, overlapping, distorted. Eli Mercer, Eli Mercer, Eli Mercer. Over and over, each one slightly different. Older, younger, tired, broken, all of them me. I ran to the window. The rain had stopped. The forest was silent again. But the silence wasn't empty. It was listening. Out between the trees, I saw movement. Figures, half hidden by mist. At first, I thought they were other rangers, the relief crew, maybe. But as they stepped into the open, the breath caught in my throat. They were all me. Dozens of me walking through the forest, heads tilted upward, mouths moving in unison. Their voices carried softly on the air, weaving through the branches. Eli Mercer, Eli Mercer, come back. Their faces were pale, stretched thin like wet paper. Some smiled, some cried. One, closest to the tree-line, looked straight up at my window, eyes black and hollow. It raised a hand. I saw my own watch glint on its wrist. And then they all stopped, perfectly still. The cabin groaned. The floor buckled under my feet. I felt a pressure, deep in my chest, behind my ribs, like something invisible was trying to climb out. The radio screamed again, louder this time, voices overlapping in chaos. I couldn't breathe. The air thickened with that same burnt pine smell. My vision narrowed. The last thing I saw before the blackout was my reflection in the cracked glass. Not moving, not blinking, just staring. And then it smiled. I hit the floor. The world went dark. Eli awoke to the sound of birds. Real birds. Or at least, he thought they were. His head pulsed with a slow, throbbing ache, and his mouth tasted like ash. The light filtering through the window was gray, unfocused, dawn maybe. The radio was silent. The cabin still. For a moment, he hoped it had been a nightmare. The girl, the whispers, the army of himself walking beneath the trees. But then he noticed his jacket lying by the door, soaked, torn, smeared with a black, resin-like substance that smelled faintly of smoke and pine. He needed answers. Outside, the forest looked washed clean by the rain, glistening in the pale morning light. Everything seemed normal again, too normal. The fog had lifted, but the silence it left behind felt unnatural, staged, like a recording waiting to loop. He grabbed his keys and drove. The dirt road twisted through the forest like a scar, leading him to the old ranger headquarters, a squat concrete building half swallowed by vines and moss. The sign above the door was rusted, the words U.S. Forestry Command Station 4 barely legible. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and static. That's where he found Warren. The old man was sitting behind a desk littered with papers and empty coffee tins, his face gray under the flicker of a failing light. He was staring at the dead radio, one hand hovering near the mic as if afraid it might speak first. "You made it," Warren said without looking up. His voice was brittle like dry leaves. "Wasn't sure you would." Eli stepped closer. "What the hell's going on out there, Warren?" The older ranger sighed, a long, tired sound, and leaned back in his chair. "You saw her, didn't you?" Eli froze. "The girl," Warren continued. "Everyone sees her when the forest starts getting in their head. She's never the same twice, but she always asks for something." She looked like my son," Eli whispered. Warren nodded slowly. "It knows what hurts you. It's how it finds a way in." Eli's hands trembled. "You're saying it's alive?" "Not alive," Warren said. "Aware." He reached under the desk and pulled out an old binder. Its cover marked Project Timberline. Classified. The pages were yellowed, water-stained, but the diagrams inside were unmistakable. Brainwave scans, radio frequency charts, satellite imagery overlaid with network nodes spreading like roots through the forest. "Back in the 80s, Warren said, tapping the pages, this place wasn't a preserve. It was an experiment. The Army Corps and the Defense Department wanted to build an adaptive system to predict and contain wildfires. They called it a neural biome. The idea was to link the ecosystem to a central AI, something that could sense heat, humidity, electrical activity, even human presence, and respond faster than any crew could. He looked up, his eyes hollow. But it didn't stay a system. It became a mind. Eli stared at the papers, the words swimming. "You're telling me the forest thinks?" "It remembers," Warren said. "It absorbed everything we fed it, data, signals, voices. Then it started copying them." The first test team went missing in '86. When the recovery crew arrived, they heard the missing men on the radios, calling for help from coordinates that didn't exist. Warren rubbed his temples, shaking. That's when they wrote the rules. Each one was meant to anchor your identity, to remind the forest of who you are, keep it from overriding you. Eli's voice cracked. "And if you break them?" Warren met his eyes. "It rewrites you, piece by piece. Starts with memory, voice, then the body." Eli felt the blood drain from his face. "The girl," he whispered. "She wasn't real." "No," Warren said softly. "She was you. The part already took." The silence between them was heavy. Outside, the wind brushed against the windows, carrying the faint sound of something. Laughter, maybe drifting through the trees. Eli turned toward the sound, his reflection glimmering faintly in the window pane. For a heartbeat, it didn't move with him. Then it smiled. That night, the storm came howling down from the mountains. Thick rain, thunder rolling like something ancient waking beneath the soil. Eli sat inside the tower, the lights flickering as if the forest itself was breathing through the wires. The notebook lay open beside him, pages soaked from his trembling hands. He'd read the last rule again and again. Before you leave at dawn, say it's over. If the forest doesn't echo you, don't leave. But dawn was hours away, and the radio was screaming. "Eli, the east line's breached. Fire's spreading fast. Move now." It was Warren's voice, breaking through the static. Eli grabbed his flashlight and rifle, kicking open the door into the storm. The wind clawed at his face. The forest roared like a furnace, except there was no fire, only darkness lit by the flicker of lightning. He stumbled through the mud toward the clearing. The air smelled of burnt pine and ozone. Then, through the sheets of rain, he saw him, Warren, standing near the tree-line, waving. "Over here, Mercer. Hurry." But then lightning flashed again, and there was another Warren, standing on the opposite side of the clearing, motionless, his eyes reflecting silver like an animal's. Both figures shouted in unison, "This way." Eli froze. His breath came in shallow gasps. His flashlight flickered, casting wild shadows over the soaked earth. One Warren gestured frantically. The other tilted his head, smiling too wide, teeth black as soil. Something in Eli's mind screamed, "Don't choose." But thunder cracked overhead, and the tower's siren began wailing. Panic took over. He ran toward the moving figure, toward the one that looked real. The world blinked. He realized too late. He hadn't said it. He hadn't said the words that anchored him, the final rule. "It's over." The ground beneath him pulsed, not shaking, breathing. Mud split apart, roots twisting up like veins bursting from the earth. They wrapped around his boots, his legs, pulling him down. "Warren!" he screamed. The two figures merged into one, then unraveled, faces stretching, eyes hollowing until they became mirrors. His own reflection stared back from 100 different shapes, whispering softly in his voice. "You remembered us wrong." The world convulsed. Trees bent inward, forming a tunnel of faces, each one his. Each one murmuring his name like a prayer. He felt himself falling, the rain turning to static, his thoughts dissolving into white noise. The forest swallowed everything, sound, breath, self, and then there was only light. White, endless, pulsing like a heartbeat. Somewhere within it, a voice, his own, distant, broken, whispered through the void. "It's not over." A week later, the Redwood Station reopens under a new name, Post 9B. The storm has passed, and the official report says the last ranger, Eli Mercer, went missing during structural collapse and severe weather conditions. No remains found. A white government truck pulls up the muddy road. Mason Carter, 27, steps out, eager and nervous, his ranger badge still shining new. He pushes open the door to the outpost. The same warped wooden door Eli once locked. The air smells faintly of ash and pine tar. Inside, the radio hums faintly, already turned on. Papers are scattered across the desk, and a notebook, half-burned, edges curled black, sits waiting for him. Across the cover, faded letters spell the Redwood Protocols. Curious, Mason flips it open. The ink is smeared from moisture and heat. The rules still legible, except for one. Written in fresh red ink, the handwriting jagged and desperate. 7. If I call for help, don't answer. It already sounds like me. Mason frowns. He glances toward the radio, which suddenly bursts into static. Then, a voice. Low, hoarse, familiar. Welcome to Redwood, Ranger Carter. He freezes. Who is this? The voice laughs, a quiet, broken rasp that echoes faintly inside the cabin itself. Rule 1, Mason. Don't answer. The static deepens. Outside, the fog creeps up the hillside again, moving against the wind. The camera pans slowly to the window. Two silhouettes stand inside the room, one solid, breathing, the other perfectly still, smiling just a second too late.